Hey Ron, my name's Orson and I brought Avon in here because he is an absolute wizard when it comes to digital automation and marketing. Just for a bit of context, I've been rapidly growing my small business as a videography agency. Every month we seem to be hitting new targets, new records, and a lot of the challenge has been keeping up with that scale. Avon's been absolutely paramount in finding out the information and knowledge I needed to hit those marks. So I wanted to say one, big thanks to Avon, but two, just get that wisdom out to you guys as well, because in this world, where it's ever changing, but now's a great opportunity to get into the digital world of the business or getting the digital stuff put into your business. So Avon, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So Avon from Relevate, we help people with CRM and marketing automation. And in terms of growing your business and scaling with technology, a lot of businesses don't know where to start. And so what we want to do is answer here some questions today about a lot of depth around not only the technology, but the people side and how it affects your entire business. And if you're not doing this, you're very quickly going to become irrelevant. So without trying to make it sound a little bit too clickbaity, you really need to start thinking about digital transformation. And a lot of times people think about digital transformation as a one-off thing, but if you're not constantly improving and keeping up, because the change in business now is blindingly quick before you are quickly irrelevant. So it's about things that businesses can do to help stay relevant, stay competitive, and really take it to the big end of town and those big businesses that have all the money and time to invest. A lot of times people get stuck on the latest widget or thing without understanding the why or the methodology behind it that drives it.
That's actually a good place to start. Why do you want to get into digitizing your business now? So could you even just tell me straight up, what have you seen as the consequences of not digitizing your business?
Yes, a story. I think when I go back to a business we walked into, we had to do a charitable event and have a barbecue and get some sausages and put some meat out for sale to make some money, etc. And we went to this business. It was a sausage factory and they produced sausages. And the first thing I remember is walking in and just seeing bits of carbon copy paper everywhere. And we walked up and said, "Hey, we're looking to get some sausages for this charity." And he's like, why all you people keep coming in asking for free stuff? All right, fine, but only one box. First of all, I'm thinking, do you not have any policies around maybe charity? We're probably just saying we wanted wholesale, happy to pay full price, and then charge a markup. We're getting a box of sausages. There is a value creation. We're going to make them cooked with bread and sauce and sell at a profit. That's fine. And so there was no policy. There was no actual understanding of how much was in the fridges to be able to order. No process. Everybody just seemed to be there just doing their own thing, and it was totally disconnected. That, I'm surprised they are still in business, if at all, today. That was a few years ago. But businesses now, when they're trying to grow beyond one or two people, you can have a conversation every day. Hey, where are we up to with this? Where are you up to with that? But at a certain point that fails, that'll drop off. When you've got 50 people, 100 people working in your business, you can't rely on those conversations in passing in the hallway anymore. Now you have to have a system in the middle.
When I first heard about this and when I was first getting to know you, I thought digitizing your business meant good website, good forms, good ads, measuring it all. That's where I thought it led to. But it was about making efficient communications and having good teamwork and clear communication.
Yeah, and I think what you're sort of saying is that front end thing that you see when you look at a business. You go, are they digital? All right, can I book something on the calendar? But aside from website, aside from I guess your digital business card or brochure, there is some other cues in the background to understand that some of it's operational, some of it is about how you engage with the customer, how you give them information, like what you're saying. We've got enough information to process every day, so we need to try and accelerate it, put it in the middle so that it's not stuck in one person's head. Everybody's expecting a faster turnaround. They're expecting empirical response to your question, not some wishy-washy sort of thing. And they want it whenever they're on. Like you get home, you Google it, you should be able to find the answer online. Everybody else is doing it. Of course, that's not always why you should do something. But having it as a thing in the middle, people want to be able to answer that question at 2 a.m. in the morning. One business we were working with, most sales occurred between 3 and 4 a.m. and that was a product aimed at breastfeeding mothers. So of course they're up at that time, but no sales team is going to be sitting there waiting to take the call. They're going to jump on Facebook and they're going to make that phone call. They're going to watch that video. Or they're going to Google that article.
They'll figure out what they can with the resources available at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that, I think that gives a really clear picture and paints like why you should look at this. There's the internal as well as the external factors, your team's experience versus your customer experience. Like it all gets improved with clear processes, and digital technology allows it to happen efficiently.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yes, but with one caveat.
Yeah.
A lot of people only look at it on the front end. They only think about when someone calls their business or when someone has that frontline first stage interaction. I think one of the things that they often miss is that customer service goes right through the business, all the way to the person that sweeps the floor at the end of the day, be that the CEO or someone down the bottom of the chain, I guess. But if someone in the back of house can know that person has a particular question, they might be able to serve faster, or even if it's got nothing to do with customer facing, if they get the information about the order, the product, the thing that has to be made, produced, sold, shipped, anything faster, then it's going to go to their door faster. They're going to get faster customer experience. So it goes much deeper than just that front, hello, I'm Barry X, I work at such and such company. What's your name? How can I help?
That makes a lot of sense. Like I can even give a personal experience to that one. I bought a water rower because I need to get back into fitness because I've started putting on the pounds because of my business. And I went to go buy, there are these tablets you've got to get for a water rower to purify the water in them so that they don't ruin your equipment over time. I was happy to spend the $25 to get the professional ones from the branding. I know there's going to be a massive mark on up and then going to like eBay or Amazon. But they couldn't give me a clear answer on when they would deliver them to me.
Yeah.
And I knew Amazon, like as soon as I placed that order, it's being shipped that day. So for me, I was just like, I just want it now so I can get into it. So I just ordered from the fastest place, even though I was willing to pay more for the branded stuff.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Same thing, working hard, don't have time to exercise. I just bought a bike trainer, which is a little thing you clip your normal bike. And I've got a standing desk. I plan to put it underneath so I can be riding while I'm doing my work. And the funny thing is I too went online and I went and looked for this thing and had a gift card, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to use my gift card at, it was 99 bucks. I searched for the best one and then it came up with this particular product. It then showed me a club price versus a non-club price. So if you're in the club, you get it for 300 bucks, which is the same as Amazon and eBay and every other kind of major vendor. So why was I going to pay $30 more
for the club membership was
for
$30?
the non-club membership? No, the membership was $5.
Ah.
So they want you to become a member. But at the same token, so I can pay $5 more for the product and get it from them, or I can pay $5 less and get it from any other vendor. Now, the reason why I went with them was because I had this gift card. When I tried to use it at some of the other stores, it was insulting to go and use it because everything was overpriced. There was even a bag of something that I was going to buy where it's the same price somewhere else, but the bag is twice the size. So why would I pay effectively double for that? So anyway, I was going to use it on the bike. I ended up buying the bike from this place, but the car didn't work. So, but I had commitment bias at that point. So it was almost insulting the fact that they wanted you to pay more to go into store or to buy the product. So why would I go into store unless they want to kill off all their local businesses? And I think they're a franchise model. So if we're thinking digital experience, we're not just talking about the customer experience. We're talking about who the other stakeholders are. Are they franchisees? Are they partners in some way? Are they either customers or your suppliers or even your own employees? Everyone has a digital experience in your company, and it needs to sort of fit your vision, your goals, your plan. And if it doesn't, you're actually going to turn people away. I would not want to go into an in-site store because I know it's going to cost me more money, but it's probably also going to annoy the franchisee who's probably going to be sitting there and spiteful about the whole thing and might sell you the bike, maybe with a little bit of service potentially. Otherwise, it's going to be through gritted teeth. So it just ruins the whole experience. So you really need to map out everything and understand end to end what's happening.
Yeah, because you think about that's why franchises, a lot of people who choose to get into a franchise, based on the few articles I've read, I have no experience in this, but they always say it's like they get a lot of guided processes, a lot of built-in things. They've got a bunch of data behind with all the processes that have worked, so they get incredible support tomorrow.
It's like buying a brand system, but if you look at the motivation, sometimes the motivation is not necessarily to support the franchisee, but to gain the franchisee and then also to churn through them. But this is not a podcast on franchising. Basically, what I'm saying is good digital systems go a long way to improving relationships, doesn't matter who it's with. I had a system that I use to facial recognition scan people clocking in at the start of the day. And where before they write it on a sheet, and where someone writes something in, there's room for animosity because you don't know if they're putting in the wrong time, either dodging you or, and then same the other way, if they're writing on the sheet, they don't know if you're paying what they've said because they've either got to write it on their own sheet and then on that sheet. Anyway, the system cleared any animosity. It was 100%, and it was like had some API key code thing that kind of time-stamped it, geolocated it, so there's no way anyone could doubt when that clock-in occurred or didn't occur. And the pay reflected exactly the hours that the person was there. So then there's a whole another people management thing, is how effective were they at that time. But at least the tech cleared up any questions around pay. Am I getting paid? Did you get my details wrong? That was another thing. Like when someone fills out their employee form and their 7 looks like a 2, and you're putting in their bank account information and it bounces, and they're angry at you because they feel like you made a mistake and there's a little bit of ambiguity there, and you're trying to do the right thing, they're trying to do the right thing, but everyone ends up frustrated. But if you give them a portal, they can enter their own details in. If they make a mistake, it's clearly on them. So now we've just removed that piece of animosity. We've cut the time for all that stuff to be done, because now I don't have to print 20 sheets of paper, hand it to them, have them go, all right, now I've got to spend an hour filling this out. Then they have to physically meet with you to hand it back. Then you have to sit there and type it in for another half hour to an hour. You can see, like I could go on and on with this.
Yeah, it's just every scenario after scenario. It just makes sense to do
It's
it.
a snowball effect.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're trying to just cut it right back and just get it jobs done first time, the right time the first time.
We just talked about why this is important. Here's a bunch of scenarios and where everyone's experience is just better from using this. And we started talking a bit into the tech world. And I know you have a thing where you say humanizing the tech. So I wanted you to help explain to me, what is humanizing the tech?
Getting back to that employee scenario that I talked about, is we weren't just thinking about the bottom line of the business of, admin hours and all that sort of stuff. One of the key drivers to that was how happy are the employees working in their company now, because they've got greater visibility on perhaps their pay, on their leave balance. They can update their unavailability. So if they go, I can't work on this day, or I'm on leave or whatever, you can respect those and you can see them long in advance. So it makes it easier to plan. It just makes communication, that comes back to what we said much earlier at the start, is that communication right throughout the business improves dramatically. And that it affects every single part of the business, from making sales to how happy someone is when they turn up in the morning, to then greet your customer with a smile or a bit of a, through grimaced teeth. So making tech human is really just about thinking about the human implications of the process as well as the financial implications. I think you need to think about both. You can't just make everybody super happy, rock up, everyone gets bean bags and you get to chill out watching movies all day. That's not what work's about. We want to drive purpose. We want to drive engagement. We want people to like what they do because they have purpose in the world and they're making something happen. Sometimes, it means you've got to wipe the table down and take out the rubbish and do a couple of things you don't want to do. But if you're putting a tech layer on that can help distribute those bad tasks that no one likes, predominantly try to give people work that they want to do and enjoy doing, occasionally challenge people and step them outside their boundaries, make it easier to communicate so there's no loss, ambiguity in time or waiting for someone to get back to you. It's going to be inevitable, but what we're talking about is a percentage reduction in the overall frustration of work. So making it human is really just considering, how do people feel about it? Not necessarily, you've got to take the right approach. People might feel frustrated about it because they don't like change. They might have just been doing it this way and that's the way they like it. But that's something we need to push through. So making it human means, how do we just mold it into the everyday, and how do we make it less mundane, more enjoyable, faster, more rapid paced, and reduce risk and errors? Because when people are making mistakes because they've had to write something 1,000 times, they get frustrated with themselves, let alone you coming in and going, why did you do this? People don't like making mistakes. So if the system helps remove the mistakes, then they feel better because no one's telling them off as often. I'm sure everybody makes mistakes, including me.
Yeah, we all do, right? But
Yeah.
but it helps reduce the simple mistakes.
Now we're talking about exception handling. Let's just say we do 1,000 things. You don't want to sit there and look at every notification for those things happening. You just want to, maybe the system can look at, here is an exception to the rule to say, this was filled out correctly, this was done correctly, this happened at the right time, that one didn't, let's surface that up and have a look. So now people are debugging issues and problems with the system, so now it becomes less personal of, you made the mistake, now it's something happened here, it didn't go through, let's just fix it up, click, done.
My personal experience with that as well is when I've had people coming on board, if there's never been a satisfaction with, you say, I usually use a lot of contractors, and some contractors not happy with the way something's being handed down to them. A lot of my work's like handing off work, and a video usually goes through 3 different people before you get it.
Yeah.
And so we have a whole process and a whole system in place, like which they got to sign off and agree on before they start, where it's like, if you're not happy, this is how you handle it. Like you don't handle it these ways. And it makes a big difference, especially in the video world. Like to say we're a bit softer is not an understatement.
Yeah.
And so it can feel very, you're never certain on how should I approach a problem until it's been put into a system, and you can say, here are the rules, here's the way we do it.
Now you're talking about culture. How do you bake culture into the tech? Is it a little statement that pops up every day? But I would say no, because then that loses down or waters down its value if it's just something that you just click past because it's annoying. But in terms of building the culture, we have a policy of just fix it and move on. It's never about the person or the fault or whatever. We're not there to tear shreds off anybody to say, you got this wrong, we're so angry at you. It's just about, this happened, how did it happen? Let's look at the system, and this just comes back down to systems thinking. What are the things that caused the error? And some things you can't automate, some things you can't do digitally. There's like a culture thing or a process thing or a mindset thing that you have to do to get across that air gap of system A to human brain and then back into system B.
So going on, we're talking about all these systems, how they're improving with employees and stuff. Why do businesses need to get started ASAP? Why do they need it now? Like, I know there's the evolving world environment, you've talked about that, but also where you can lead a business if you don't get started early on, you can dig yourself a bit of a hole.
Yes, all businesses are in competition. You're vying for attention online. You're looking for a wallet share of the customer. And one of the big factors is that everybody that has money or attention, like it's never been easier to start a business. You've got systems that you can rent for $10 a month that can, or $50 a month or whatever, that can do all your accounting, things that used to cost companies absolute millions to produce in equivalent day money today. We've got technologies that help things along much faster. There is always somebody else coming. There's always another bit of technology waiting to disrupt you. And that's just everyday business, and it's always been that way. The thing that we're now facing is we've got the global pressures that you mentioned in terms of population pressures, in that particularly in Australia, the youth and the aged are going to outpace the growth in the workforce. So the working age population is going to be in a stagnation or slight decline over the next 50 years. So even though the whole population is going to grow, so that means that we're going to have fewer people to manage more stuff, whether it's processing more bits of forms or paperwork, or babysitters having to babysit more people, or aged care facilities having to do more with less. Everyone's going to do more with less. So if you're not innovating, you're falling behind. If you're not trying to learn, do things faster, automate stuff, then you're already in a state of decay and decline. So if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. That is really important, and it's something that you really have to grab by the horns. And it is changing so fast now that you've just got to keep learning, you've got to keep doing, you've got to keep implementing and testing, getting that feedback and driving what works. That's the only way that you're going to stay relevant and not go out of business.
So it's almost like, the inflation of money devalues over time. Like what's expected for you to get done in the future is going to be more and more with less and less time as technology improves and aids you to get there.
Yeah, so time pressure and money pressure and people pressure.
Yeah, so you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. If
Correct.
you're not getting faster, the world will go past you. So if you have to get this started, let's just say you've been like doing well as a business, but you haven't really kept an eye on technology and you need to get your employees involved in this. Like what are you expecting it to cost a business to get started and get employees invested in these systems? There's obviously the time investment, a money investment, expertise you need to bring in.
The first thing you said was time, and that's what I was going to say first. I would suggest that given the speed that it's changing, you really need to be a little bit voracious in your reading. And I would say more, you can watch videos, there's how-to guides, there's 1,000 software tools out there. But some people find one, they like it, and they go all out on it. That can't always be, well, it's not always a good idea. I think what you need to do is look at perhaps what some of the people are doing in your industry, have a look at what other companies that you like that are doing really well, have a look at some of the tools that they're using. That's not always a good example. Look at Telstra, they're massive, but they're an absolute mess in the background. They've had money and they've been trying to fix up their situation for a very long time. I think there's some things that are improving, but they've got more resources to throw at it. Some people say quantity over quality, but I still watch videos at 1.5, 2 times speed. Usually if I understand something, there's usually a nugget of gold somewhere. So I'll try and watch a lot of stuff. I'll try and read through a lot of stuff. Blogs do not make it easy. Blogs are all driven around the SEO thing. They're the quick 5 tips on how to improve X. That article's probably been rewritten 100 times over, and you're not really going to get any new content. These list articles with the header and the bold text that says point 1, point 2, point 3, just read the top lines. You probably don't need to go much deeper.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the same thing, right? If you want a really easy at-home example, you ever try and Google a recipe on Google? You got to scroll past 4 paragraphs of SEO optimized jargon just to get down to what you need to buy and how to cook it.
You need a pot. It needs to be 45 centimeters wide and 8 inches high.
Yeah.
Make sure it's stainless steel, not cast iron.
Thankfully, though, Google did make an announcement about 2 weeks ago that they're now changing the SEO, and they are going to be focusing on people-driven, not SEO-driven. And so, yeah, it's like all these SEO specialized writers are getting ready for a massive shift at the moment. So
it's almost like Google's listening to this. They're humanizing their tech.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I think YouTube's so popular. Is one, it is a lot easier to learn from a video, but YouTube's, if you get into their algorithm, and this is I'm very passionate about, is that all they care about is, did people enjoy the experience? Like you can say anything about the YouTube algorithm that people have said that's true, and you can swap algorithm with people and it still applies. Oh, the algorithm changed. No, people did, and the algorithm just changed it so that they kept serving what's appropriate to them.
I think in terms of content, I mean, take a few courses. On LinkedIn, you've got Coursera, or it was Coursera, it's now LinkedIn Learning. But there's lots of free stuff out there. A lot of it is very shallow, I would say. So shallow learning, it doesn't really cover a lot of depth. You can spend a lot of time. I find a huge difference between, for example, in my space with CRM, there is like HubSpot, and they've got a learning academy and videos and that sort of stuff. And then there's Salesforce, and they've got what they call Trailhead and a whole bunch of learning videos. And then you've got Microsoft Learn. So the three are almost identical in terms of what they're trying to achieve. One has very basic language, and I find puts me to sleep just because it's not detailed rich enough. That's HubSpot, by the way. The other one is really technical, big words, and that puts me to sleep because it's too technical and boring and there's no color on the page, and that's Microsoft. And then Salesforce does it really well, and you've got all these other big vendors trying to copy them as fast as they can, where they put it in a bit of a contextual story to really help you understand what is it that this person is trying to achieve, what was the roadblocks, how did they achieve it, and what was the outcome. So we try to emulate that in our learning courses, and again, it's making the content human, it's making it relatable and real, hence having questionnaires like this and making videos like this. That's how we produce it, but that's how also you need to learn it and consume it. But just be very judicious on the type and quality of content. Like you were saying, when people are trying to game the algorithm, there's 1,001 of these videos and companies that make a living using AI and processes like basically a screen share or an animation with no depth, no value, just pumping some crap out there that lasts a minute or two to get you to click on it, and then they get some ad revenue.
Yeah, I think a big thing is just to see if the person teaching you, their expertise matches.
What's their background?
Yeah, what's their background? Yeah. If it's a really basic, like how to press a button, anyone can teach me that. But if it's like how to grow your business to a super massive success, well, you better have seen that yourself as well. Because I've had generic counseling on my business before. Yeah. And that didn't end up working. And I ended up having to find someone in LA who ran a video production studio exactly how I wanted to. Turns out they offered counseling as well. So I paid them for their time, and what they taught me in 30 minutes, that other person couldn't teach me in 4 months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it was just because they knew what worked.
It's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a big difference. And going back from all this, because we went on a massive segue, but the question I originally asked, and we never really we got through the time.
Yeah.
How much do we have to invest before we can get like ourselves and employees invested into these systems as well? So there's the employee aspect I don't think we really cover. Is there?
No. And the financial side. First thing is know what it is you're buying. Hence the time thing and why that took so much time. Apologies. But the other one, I guess, from a people side is you need to introduce the idea over time. People don't like change. Maybe share some content in with your team. So what you do as an owner, when you probably double down on learning everything, you need to do with your employees. So you probably just pull out the best nuggets of gold. You've got to be careful with things like bias and confirmation. We're only sending in things that prove you right is a bad idea. What you should do is try and prove yourself, give them a balanced argument and say, this is what I think, get them involved, get them to weigh in on the problems that they face. I talk to business owners and the problems that they have are vastly different from the people on the front end. So I generally, when I go into a business, I interview top, middle and bottom all the way through and go, tell me about your role, what you do, what the problems you, how do you think they could be fixed? And that gives me a great insight all the way through. And you might even hire an external to come in with a fresh set of eyes to basically do that analysis on your business to identify where the roadblocks are. It could be that the front end person doesn't have what they need, middle management doesn't understand the problem because they're new in the role, top management doesn't understand all of that because times have changed since they were on the front desk and things like that. And then from a cost perspective, I guess it could be how long is a piece of string.
Yeah.
I would budget more from the effect of what does that save you? So if I spend $10,000 now and it saves me an hour a day, that's probably not that bad of an investment unless I've got 10 employees that it also saves an hour a day of them. Then you calculate their wage cost per hour. Then you extrapolate that out to a year and go, how much am I going to save? You might save 50 grand's worth of wage costs, improve your happiness, employee happiness, and it might only cost you $10,000. Is that a good investment? I would say yes. But there's all sorts of calculations. The big thing is, what's the end result? And it's not always money. It's not always clear. You need to look at the tangible and intangible outcomes of those investments. So if you're going to invest in technology, you need to look at, I guess, cost is probably the least important part. It's probably more the outcome and the end effect. So if you're going to spend, say for example, I create a customer experience, 3 screens, 3 buttons on each screen, and I do that so that the end user only has to go click, click, click. And that's a beautiful customer experience. But that means I have to build 27 possible outcomes for that 3-button experience. And that might cost 20 grand. But for every customer, that might take a 2-hour engagement process with you or a staff member having a meeting or a couple of meetings down to a 10-minute little click through, bit of information gathering, watch a couple of videos, click next, and put your credit card in. So is the value there? Absolutely. You get faster customer turnover, you get lower cost of delivery, but yeah, it costs a little on the front end.
So that's pretty much a way for a business to be able to handle scaling as well in a more efficient manner because you're not spending so much time and money on a single employee with a single customer.
Well, the big trend now is B2B commerce. So if I'm going to buy something from as a consumer, like we were talking about Amazon before, you just go on, you look at it, you click how many you want, put in your address, put your credit card in, and hit go. People want that experience from businesses. And so, booking a meeting with someone or getting a bit of information or even going through the whole purchase process, maybe that front end onboarding where the first time you figure out if it's good or not, but then if you need to upgrade or downgrade or buy more or any of that sort of stuff, you can pretty much automate that ideally with the whatever customer agreement you came to with them. So the special rate that they get for a certain volume or the pricing that they negotiated. So that B2B experience in an online world, if someone was to take an order, a person, it's going to cost you $70 on average for a person to manually take that order, or about $1 if a computer takes the order. So does it make sense if you can make 1,000 orders a month? Is it going to cost you $1,000 or $70,000?
It makes a big difference.
That's a very simple calculation right there.
Yeah, math's made easy. Why is it a bad idea? So, you can pump technology at a problem. Why can't we just throw another person at the problem? That's how a lot of businesses have scaled.
Yes, this is true. However, just to give you a story example, we worked with a company. They had grown quite significantly, and in their office, everything is paper based. In their office, they had my height standing with these big plastic tubs filled with sheets of paper, which were invoices yet to be entered. So that was money, basically, that hasn't been invoiced out to the customer yet. So there was probably a good between $2 and $5 million worth of cash sitting in those tubs that not yet invoiced to the customer. So best practice is you invoice straight away. If it's going to take them 30 days to pay and you don't invoice for 5 days, and then there's 5 days of cash flow you're without. Particularly if it's a larger invoice, that might take 60 days or 90 days. Every day counts, because that's then money you've got to put to get a bank loan to cover the costs of delivering. And then if it takes so long, maybe they didn't fight it, and then you can't find that bit of paper again. Just goes on and on. But if you could capture all the data in the warehouse as the thing is getting made or shipped or ordered or whatever, and then click a button and then the invoice is sent, well, yeah, that might cost you a couple $100,000. But if you've got 5 million sitting there in uninvoiced things, now do you think throwing a $19 an hour person at the problem is going to solve it? They're probably going to look at it, get just as baffled as me, looking at this pile of paper going, oh, I'm going to have to go and enter that. It's going to take me hours. I might make mistakes. There's only so much room in the office. How many more people can you jam in there? They've grown from 70 people to 120. There's already bursting at the seams. So there's a lot of problems with throwing people at the problem, and it's beyond just the cost thing or a convenience thing. There's the employee enjoyment thing. You run out of space eventually. They get sick, they don't turn up, then you've got to hire them another one, or maybe they quit or they go somewhere else because they don't like the work.
Yeah.
Now we're in an actual skills shortage, and that's going to continue even further.
I've noticed and experienced that, like as a young person, just with the friends around me, it's the attitude's changed from where am I going to get a good job, how hard do I have to work, to it's my choice. You need me more than I need you. It used to, I always noticed that it was much easier to find a good employee than a good employer, but I find that like the tables are shifting. There's so many good employers, and they will eat your potential staff opportunities up because they will hunt for them if they need to. And then once the staff's there, they'll stick around. That $19 an hour person who moves boxes of paper, breaking their back over they'll move pretty quick. There's not much for them to reason to stay in that unless you're a really cool person.
Now, you're getting companies that have the cash. Maybe they've been an incumbent, they're a legacy company, they've got some backing behind them, and they're trying to regain the market or whatever. They might poach your $19 an hour person for $25, $30, $45 an hour.
Yeah.
And
maybe the job just doesn't suck.
Or no, even maybe it really sucks. That's why they're paying a premium to get people in there.
Oh, true.
But now people are going the other way, and they're going, well, I don't want the money. I want to be able to log in from my laptop and have my kids and my dog or whatever stay in my jammies and do my work. Now they can do that. You don't have to physically be there for that 6 pile of paper.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And especially as well for my industry, we can hire anywhere around the world now as well because of it. And it's not even becoming I can get someone cheaper in a different country. It's that I can get the best talent around the world.
Now, funny you should say that, is aside from talent, now that with global supply chain risks, and you might even consider the new term is friendshoring. So it's not offshoring, it is offshoring, but it's offshoring to a friendly country that has better diplomatic ties.
Yeah.
So there is a risk factors with doing that, but definitely you get people that have a good skill, or they're in a different time zone, and so they can work through the night and get the thing out the door faster the next day. There's a number of ways to approach it.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. I think we covered a lot really there, like why it's important, how, blah, blah, all that stuff. So where should we get started? That's the big question. Like there's an overwhelming amount of ways you can improve your business with the digital era. Can you just list me off a few places you'd start?
Well, the first thing I always say is get a password manager, because in the online world, you're going to have a lot of passwords. There's Dashlane, LastPass, we use LastPass. There's hundreds of others, and I know there's a whole bunch of risks around hackings and things like that. The sheer fact of the matter is there's just so much to no, you're not going to walk around with a bit of paper in your hand that has all the passwords.
Yeah.
And even if you do, there's your security risk there.
Yeah, and so you get a 2FA with that as well?
Yeah, definitely get 2FA. So security is really, really important. So that's a simple way to start. Another one could be get a calendar application if you don't already have Calendly or something similar, where asynchronously people can book you if you are a bookings business. If not, think about something that is going to allow someone an easier experience in getting in touch with you. The other one would be just start watching videos and learning. You could go to our learning academy at academy.relevate.com.au or jump on the YouTube video, and this video series is going to help with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Searching for those problems. Yeah, YouTube's a good one. And going on from that, you talked briefly, and I think that's a good thing to clear up asynchronously in the digital world. Like that's pretty much a thing that comes with the digital world.
Yeah, asynchronous, and the other one is think about things in a backlog. A lot of times, particularly the older generation, prefer to talk to someone on the phone. They like to go into office and meet with someone, but that chews up a lot of time. Now that we've got really good digital communications, things like video and voicemail and that sort of stuff, and this is nothing new, but people still don't work as asynchronously as they could, meaning not at the same time. Like I can send you an email and you answer it an hour later, that's asynchronous. But now you can do that with a video message, or we can do that with, like watching this video is an asynchronous messaging and information sharing process. Now, if you're thinking of the backlog though, now we can start to apply like with your emails, you prioritize them. You set a time where you go and do all those things together at the same time, because switching tasks takes a lot of time. So you will need a batch process. So working asynchronously and using those IT skills, the IT industry had it really good for a very long time. They had it so right. They're probably the first to get involved in this sort of stuff. But, you know, look back to Toyota in the 1950s when they invented the Kanban method. They've got a job board and everything's going through a stage and a status. If you just think of everything like that, you're going to save a lot of time, because you know what stage and status things are up to. You don't have to be there all the way through to nurture this thing through to its nth degree. You can wait till you got 10 to process at the same time. It's going to make you much more efficient.
Yeah, I've had that similar experience, because one of the big issues I have with my videos is you have 20 video projects, and if like you said, I actually do have people that work with me throughout the night, and then I wake up, if my videos are done, it's great.
Yeah.
But if there's problems, I get emails, and I can get a lot of them,
Yeah.
and then it's like linking which email to which project, and that ends up eating a lot of time.
Yeah.
So even optimizing that asynchronous communication so that we actually have message boards for each video project. So I can just click through a video project and I'll see the messages left for that project right there. So that makes
everything needs to be in context, because you're having 1,000 conversations about similar things. It's hard to know where those conversations map to those individual things. So having asynchronous task boards and conversations in context, basically project management boards or things like that.
Yeah.
But now you need to expose that to externals, because now everyone's working on a different app. I've got we've got Discord, Teams, Skype, WhatsApp, a couple of other things running in the background. How do you manage all of that? You need to try and create some semblance of intercompany collaboration, because it's not always you're working with your customers, or it's not always with your own team. You need to be able to jump these boundaries. So it's good to have a common set of skills in this digital space so that you can work across those platforms, make the jump between platform A and platform B, understand how to extract it here and put it there, and that sort of thing. Those skills will last a very long time.
That's very true. And like even jumping from these platforms, like a big trend with these is, like I said with the emails, and I know you talked to me about this a week or so ago, spreadsheets, like jumping, like they're great skills to have, emails and spreadsheets, very basic in the office these days, but there's big trends happening towards just jumping away from them. They have their practical uses still, but if you're using them consistently for the same thing over and over again, there's probably a better way to do it.
Yes, to a degree. I mean, look, it would still be good to have things like the ability to export data from one software and upload it to another, which uses a spreadsheet. But the days of running everything on spreadsheets are definitely going. But now with applications, and everybody's got the thing that they like, or like everyone's doing things a slightly different way. And people like to feel unique and different. And so there were 8,000 CRM and marketing automation technology products alone in about 2017. Since COVID, there's been another couple million products released. So yeah, now we've got the issue of there's always an app for that, and there's about a million. So which one do you choose, and how do you work with the other person that's got a different one? And everybody's trying to go, oh, look what I've got, look what I've got. There's going to be some death of these applications because there's just not enough market share. Each one's going to have 10 customers because there's another million, and everyone's choosing the one that they like. So now I tend to like to stick to the bigger ones because they got more money, they innovate faster, they've got a bit of backing, they're not going to die in 6 months' time when they don't get funding. There's tons of buyouts and rebrands and all that sort of stuff. You've just got to learn how to mitigate it and roll with it.
So like, how do we know we're picking the right software though? Like, something's nice, it looks great, like that's going to solve my problem.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we had this all with the streaming services. We got 6 streaming service shows and we're only watching one of them.
You've only got 2 eyeballs.
Yeah, you only got 2
ears.
eyeballs and 2 days a weekend.
Yeah.
And you're only using one half of a Sunday to watch 3 episodes. So you've got to cut it back a bit.
Yeah.
Even though you want it all. So the big question there is, and taking it back to the business world, is how do we pick the right software? What do you do?
Well, to make it more relatable, let's talk about those video platforms. We presume there's Apple TV, Paramount Plus, Netflix, something. And I'm sure there's a lot more now. Whilst Netflix kind of killed Blockbuster, now just like that, you've got all these other companies that can now copy that one. And it's a lot easier to start a business and copy one online because it's not hard to hide exactly, unless there's some proprietary technology that no one else has.
You can't copy and paste like a cement building.
Correct, yeah. So in terms of which one you choose, you're right, you've only got 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 days a week and 1 brain. So now you need to think about, if you can only choose one, you might choose 2, but if you can only choose one, let's take a bit more of a holistic approach. Which one aligns with you, your values, where you want to go, what you're trying to achieve. You might watch the one that has the education channel if you want to grow a big business, or you might use the one that has SpongeBob SquarePants if all you want to do is leave your brain at home and decompress in the afternoon. I'd probably do it, personally, I'd do up a spreadsheet to map each of these potential software products or channels that I want to watch. Then I have a list of my requirements down the side, and I decide what it is that I want. I want to see news, I want to see documentaries, I want to see this. Or maybe if you're the person that uses it to decompress or whatever, you go, I want to see SpongeBob, whatever these other shows are, and then you can traffic light them. You go, does this have it, yes or no? So you color the cell green, red, or yellow. Yellow might be that it kind of does, but not really. There's some depth that you need to put in there, like maybe only the old episodes or something like that. So then you can make an empirical decision of the best one overall. Don't go for the one that has this one awesome show and then nothing else.
Better off just going to your mate's place for that one.
Correct, yeah. So yeah, take the best overall rather than the thing with the one shiny widget that looks really cool and then everyone, because if everybody has the same amount of time, they've just spent a lot of time developing that one feature to get people that's a big pain point for them. Instead of something that doing a little bit of work on everything that gives you the best overall benefit.
Yeah, that's been a big thing I think I've learned working around you and with you as well a lot, is look at the platform, not the software. What's the full offering service? Because also the platforms, they can communicate well together.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference to everything just working easily. There's the worst thing is trying to connect 2 completely different softwares from 2 completely different companies and getting them to talk.
Or even if you have to connect them, it can drop out every now and then, or do you need to spend 10, 20, 30, 40 grand building an API connection that then has a lifespan because each software A and software B do updates and then they'll change some rule or API key or the way they use some curly brace or bracket, and then it's broken. And then you've got to go back and there's a time investment to keep abreast of all the changes and make the updates, and then you've got to host it. You got to look at the big picture.
Yeah, that's the big thing there, is looking at that big picture. There's the software and the platforms, and especially if you're a small, medium business, you're not going to spend 40 grand getting software connected up. So you need to keep it way more affordable than that and efficient, or at least you'd want to. So how do you do that? Like thinking as a small, medium business, and even your large ones, just thinking in the future and making sure you're picking the right stuff. How do you look into the future of it?
So I would look at where you want to be in like 3 to 5 years' time, and then start thinking about what are the types of things that businesses of that size use. You might look at, is it an ERP or a CRM, or is it something else? Isn't it a simple little tool, like a little project management thing? But working backwards means that you can start to pick the things that will lead you into that bigger place later on. And it might mean that you don't then have to change a couple of small things early on. You can maybe take a bigger leap into a payment or payroll platform that integrates with your ERP later on, so that you don't then have to change out of two things. You can just take those steps. So you kind of like look ahead. Let's just say you're going to jump across a river, and there's a few stones or whatever. You go, oh, that one's a bit wobbly, that one's no good, that one's in the wrong direction. I know where I want to go, and I can see there's a bit of a path all the way back. So you need to forecast where you're going to be, work your way backwards, and then start making decisions strategically to move forward on that.
Yeah, so thinking beyond the immediate problem you have now.
Correct, yeah.
It's thinking about where you want it to take you.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a lot more, you're not being so reactionary. You're starting
Correct.
what's the opposite of reactionary? Where you're
Strategic,
Strategic.
or planned, or
anyway, same thing. You are, you're not being reactionary. You're forward thinking. You're actually you're thinking. You're not reacting. That's the big thing right there.
yeah. One of the things we talk about is like a decision support matrix. So, for example, you look at the sort of economics of it all, and you go, all right, if we invest in this, and your keyword is invest. People always look at software as a cost, and they go, yeah, it's going to cost me $10. I'm going to go for the cheap thing. But then they end up spending more in staff time and fixing problems. If they go for the right thing rather than the cheap thing, then they might last a little bit longer in that one before they've got to rip and replace. Or maybe choose something now with a similar framework so that you can easily extract the data and put it into something else later without having to retype everything, basically. And then when you get along that path, your decision support matrix would say, when we get to this many staff and this much revenue, then it makes sense to make the jump over here. And start making savings. If anyone's not pulling cash out into a savings account every day, every week, then you don't really have a business. You're just riding the wave and hoping for the best. You need to have that planned cash balance so you can make those capital expenditures, or even, just be really clever with your cash flow, so you're not spending every dollar you make. You've got some room in case, or if there's a delay in the payment, you don't then have to give up a mortgage payment or not eat for that week. You've got something you can fall back on. So there's just some general good business practices, as well as the software and technical side.
Yeah, and you'd be saying the same thing as well. Not only should you be making sure you're having like cash savings, but time savings as well. I notice a lot of businesses who don't jump on board, they don't have time to even think about getting this sorted.
By the time that they're looking at a solution, they're putting out fires, and then they're too busy treating burns to actually put the fire out. So it's already become so much of a problem. Things are bursting at the seams. They're having to hire extra people to enter those bits of paper into the system, that they don't have then that money or that time to go and invest in it. So it's like when that river crossing example, you're going to look before you jump, not jump and then go, oh crap, we're in the water, and then start scrambling, trying to find the nearest rock.
Or a better scenario for them, if these businesses, is like there's a crocodile snapping behind them because they weren't paying attention the whole time, and now they have to jump and hope for the best. That makes. Yeah, it just means you've got to be ahead and thinking, not reacting. Is the
Correct.
Like getting yourself to a point where you're not reacting. So, and then going on from that, a lot of that comes from the big thing, you tell me if I'm right or wrong here, is we don't know what we don't know. How do you figure out what you don't know?
A good thing to look at is the experiences of other businesses. Ones that are bigger, smaller, about the same size, they've gone through a similar journey. It makes sense to go and talk to people at networking events. It makes sense to, maybe look for a professional. And I know you've got to be a little bit careful in that, because like you were saying, is there some people that give you the promises, but maybe that's not really specific to you, or they don't know your industry or whatever. And you got in 30 minutes more advice than someone gave you in 4 months. So be careful of that. The other thing is go and watch videos, go and consume content, go and understand what people in your field, in your industry, have issues with. Read books, and I don't mean always the general kind of puffy things. Go for like academic transcripts and look for things that are a little bit more meat in the sandwich than just your everyday blog post, because you're not really going to get much from there. The only thing that you don't get anything from a blog post, they do. They're looking for people who are searching for, desperate for answers, and then they go and they search and they search and they search and they keep finding the same things. Don't get confirmation bias from that. That's not doesn't mean you read it a lot, doesn't mean it's the right thing. A few blogs or whatever is too generalist, too high level. It's not really specific to your business, but it can start to give you an idea of what question to ask next. Yeah, read specifically. That's probably the key one.
That is a big thing to bring up as well. And going back to your decision matrix, how it did a lot of that solving as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm working with Avon, I was going, Avon, I couldn't figure out my project management solution as the size company I am for what I needed to do. It needed to be like fast, it needed to be agile, it needed to be quick communication, it needed to be organized, and it needed to be customizable, like very quickly customizable was the big thing holding me back in a lot of the cases.
Yeah.
And all I've been doing was like, you gave me a lot of advice, and then I went on, looked at a lot of blogs, and it was just constantly, they kept listing the same 4 or 5 softwares. So I'm like, okay, so these are my options, these are my options. And so I'm just sitting there thinking, I've got your decision matrix opened up and I'm starting to fill this out. I'm like, okay, what's fitting all these conditions?
Yeah.
And as I'm looking at my note-taking app, which I've been using to like manage the projects for myself, I realized, it's got a collaboration feature. Yeah, it's got a 30-day backup. Yes, I can get them on like locked account access. I was like, okay, there we go. And just for you guys to note, we will be making a video about that decision matrix and how to make empirical decisions on what you implement. So if you haven't already, try and hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date when that comes out.
And it's interesting you said it comes back to being planned. Like when you have to solve a problem, you're going to grab the quickest thing and easiest thing. And then it's going to hurt because you've not made it a good decision, you've made a quick decision. And one that's probably under emotional pressure and time pressure and money pressure. So what you said is that sometimes what's on the box is not what's inside. A perfect example is CRM software. At the moment, CRM is the easy catch-all, and so it seems to be the buzzword. All these platforms are saying that they do CRM when all they hold is a first name, a last name, and an email address, which kind of misses the point on what a CRM really should be, which is an interrelation of various relationships, whether it's supplier, customer, what's the depth, how do we understand, how do we track the communications, what do we got to do next? It's basically just putting everything you do in a normal human relationship into a bit of software so you can scale it.
Yes, the CRM goes beyond a people detailed spreadsheet pretty much. Like a lot of them said, look at all these people we've got organized, and there's so much more. Like it's about building a system that can help. Yeah. Because one thing humans are bad at is remembering. We are not going to remember someone's favorite coffee. Not going to remember their birthdays. I forget half my brothers half the time. Until the week before, and then you're not going to remember those things. Humans aren't built to remember. We're meant to problem solve what's in front of us. Yeah. So these systems just come in to make sure that we're doing the right things by our customers, remembering them for what we need to remember them for.
And if you've got like 10,000 customers, is it going to surface up the 50 that bought every single thing in your product line who were super interested? So then maybe you could go and reach out to them and invite them to like a special customer day or a VIP day or something like that. You can make these kinds of things based on the human behavior, but that's not going to surface always in your accounting software or in your project management software. Or even if you've got 1,000 customers, I have struggled remembering 100 and 150 people, let alone 1,000.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd want to mention about figuring out what we don't know? Is it just look at what other people are doing, look at what you can find online, and also looking at the problem you have before you?
You need to look at a different lens in that maybe that's not that problem. Like what you were saying with the software, that it was the note-taking tool. Just because it said, and I made it earlier, was it doesn't always do what it says on the box. And sometimes by doing that analysis, you can see what are the challenges I'm really trying to solve here. Maybe if you take the buzzword out, that what you're looking for, you're treating the symptoms the cause rather than the symptoms. It's like that 5 why thing, always ask, why is this happening? Why is that happening? So maybe you need to work out how much each of those things is important to you and list them in order of priority. So there's must-haves and then there's nice-to-haves. And the nice-to-haves generally what people drives their decision-making because we're emotive buyers. And so you buy whatever and the button wiggles and it flashes and it makes you feel good, it gives you an endorphin release. But that's not why you should buy the platform. You should buy the platform because it has a measurable result. And maybe it's not that thing that you're looking for. If you stop looking with blinkers on, you might see a bigger world, and then you can pick something that's a little bit more flexible, does the thing that actually matters for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. And when you said that, it did bring me back. The flashy thing was how it was like auto-calculating like budgets and expenditures. So I can see if it's really important to stay on budget and have your money tracked. Yeah. But the thing that became more important and more paramount to me was just getting the work done efficiently and without wasting, doubling up time. And I did fall behind on that, which is really what I needed the most to begin with. And I had other ways of tracking budgets.
In this day and age, people cost is the highest. So if you can reduce your people cost by using your tech, is a very good investment if it's going to save you 50 hours, 100 hours at, potentially depending on who your subcontractor is. If you're running a firm of expensive consultants, that could cost you $300 an hour. Saving 5 minutes would probably really be a massive hit to the bottom line.
Yeah, that definitely is a sense. And then I know you talked about this last week as well. We're having a chat about it. Do you want to help explain what like live test data is, like taking in something and testing it?
Yeah, sometimes the sample set they give you or your imagination just doesn't cut it. Take a trial. Go and get the demo. Grab some of your own information in a spreadsheet. Disidentify it. You can be John Smith 1, John Smith 2. Doesn't really matter. Whack it in there and see how it goes. Try to create some problems. Try to get to a roadblock that says, this doesn't work for this reason. And then decide, is that the deal breaker? Because sometimes if it doesn't work, it could be that you might have to manipulate something. But again, looking at the grand scheme of things, taking that one little problem, which might feel like a bit of a roadblock in that little scenario, but in the grand scheme across all of it, it could be 80%, 90% better than option B or C. So that's where, your application didn't do the financial side, but you've got other more specific things that can do the financial side, like Xero, and then you could probably plug in
Xero accounting. I got tracking software, so I can just look back and I can count how many minutes they spent on a project.
Yeah, you could probably use a time tracking tool, a Harvest or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's getting to that point where I need to start focusing on that budgeting on the people side of things.
Yeah.
Right now, it was getting that project done.
Particularly when you have more people, because you're going to need to look at hourly rate, utilization. If you're paying for them and they're not actually earning you money, then they're costing you.
Yeah.
Then you need to also make decisions the other way to go, do we need to staff up? Should we hold off and keep the profitability? Because then you staff up and then the projects die off and then you've got to start firing. That never feels good. Or maybe you can come to some conversation with someone before it turns bad and say, hey, look, things are slowing down a bit. I reckon in the next 30 days, would you, like maybe one of your contractors, they could go, I've got some work over here I can do. So then you don't kill the relationship. You don't get rid of them. You just improve the conversation to be more two-way, transparent, and you get to the value faster.
Yeah, and it's far less emotionally draining to cancel a subscription than it is to fire someone.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So yeah, then that pretty much covers like live testing data. Would you also one of the things I found is if I have a friendly client such as yourself, I'm like, hey, Avon, I got a new process I want to try out.
Yeah.
Can I just bring you in and can you try it with me?
Test, absolutely. What have we got? The Artemis 1 moon rocket at the moment, hundreds of billions of dollars in making this thing. And so they're just about to launch it and everybody, the whole world is sitting there waiting for it to go. And they're like, nah, there's a leak. We need to pull it off. And they go and check. And then they try it again a couple of weeks later and they put it back on the launch pad. You got like a 3-day countdown or whatever. And yep, the leak's still there. We're going to pull it off the launch pad and we'll go again in about a month. Now, that doesn't seem like much, except when you remember that this thing costs a couple of $100 billion to make. And not only that, this is the test one. Before the next one, they fly people in it. So do you think it would be good to let this thing fly, go, she'll be right, see how it goes? and then it blows up and then the astronauts are like, nah, not getting in that thing. So much better to test with something little and fail at it and then go, yep, that wasn't any good. Get rid of it, get it off your plate, move on to the next thing. Or just understand what the risks and the problems are and mitigate it. Do you need to take a backup? Do you need to manipulate something first? Do you need to do something else? You're never going to get everything 100% perfect. So just understand the risks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like understand the risks you're getting into when you bring these people's data in, and the other thing is you don't know. You just like going back to this whole theme of you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
When you implement something, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's going to change and happen.
And same like particularly for us when we're implementing with the customer's got no idea, and we've got a pretty good idea, but it's not until we get further in and they start to understand what the thing can do, then they have all these aha moments. They know their industry or business better than us. And so they go, oh, we could do this and we could do that. And then, of course, massive scope creep. But We kind of like have to build it in, manage it, talk to them in advance. I go up to one customer, I said, we can do this for you, but in 6 months' time, you're going to have an inventory problem. No, what are you talking about? I don't hold inventory. Like, not yet, but when you're selling 1,000 a day, you're going to need to start tracking inventory. Even if it's not expensive or it's a small product or it doesn't take up much room, it's a cost. It's an asset. It's something that you need to know where it is, how much it costs you, and how many you got left. Even just for the customer to go, we've got another 4 for you. You can use those.
Yeah, that is a big one right there. And like that's why people would look at people using people like you and trying to look for the people that are above you, so you can see they can make those predictions.
Yeah,
because you're not going to think about that task stuff or the CRM side of things, and then how does that lead back to your inventory stuff and how do you manage your inventory?
that's why I'm saying digital transformation goes right through the entire organization and spills out onto the outside in terms of having portals for your customers or for partners or suppliers, just to be able to get information quickly, cheaply, and that's accurate.
Yeah. I don't know many people that won't buy from a website if it doesn't say they have it in stock. And the only way you can do that is if you have that inventory system in place.
And a lot of those are built in, sometimes a little more complicated. I was working with one organization and we did a marketing automation sequence for them. They're a not-for-profit, and so they had these ripped rags and things, or paper shredding and all these different services. And for rags, that's something that you can turn into inventory. But their website was just like click here and call for a quote. It was always call for a quote. There was no indicative pricing. There was no order now. And we put this marketing automation sequence in. It was basically like a rebuy. So it would say, hey, it's been a month, because it like these automotive shops, they go through it. So we'd say every month we'd say, hey, click here if you'd like to order some more. So they'd click here, they'd go to the site, and then they'd have to put in the form and then click call for a quote. Would have been nicer if they could have put their credit card in, hit go, and then just have it arrive. But what actually happened is they begged us to turn off the automation because they couldn't keep up with demand. And they didn't really track or store inventory. They just made it as they went. I said, you got to ramp up things. I'm not going to turn it off. I will spread the timer out to another month, so I'll only ask every 2 months. But yeah, the phenomenal results meant that they were problems that they didn't know they were going to have. And usually when good marketing is in place, distribution is the problem.
Yeah.
Logistics, having enough in backlog. A perfect example was the cartoon Bluey. Absolutely took off. It's a Brisbane cartoon with a dog, and it's about some kids. If you've got kids, you'll know all about it. Anyway, come Christmas time, they had one of the dogs, but not the other ones, because they're two sisters. It sold out, and then there was so much left on the table. I think it sold out in the first week of being announced Christmas, and here we are in September. We've already got Christmas trees for this year. So you can understand how distribution was a massive downfall. Now they've got a huge range of products, add-on products, side products. That feedback loop would have been better if they had invested some more time and money and capital into just researching the customer. Who wants what, how much, what's the dollar return on each. If they make these little plastic melamine plates, they can cost 5 cents each. You can sell them for $5. Markup is massive. If they had things like that, they've done it now this year, but in the first year, they just did not have that. And so they massively missed a huge wave of revenue that they could have gotten onto earlier. But hey, now they're on international.
And it's not the worst problem to leave on, like really.
No.
So
these are the upside problems that a lot of times we always think about it as a problem, but what we're not thinking about it is as an opportunity. We're not saying the upside or the risk of digital transformation is not being able to keep up with your customers. It's not being able to keep up with the competition, because they've solved these problems. They've realized the opportunity faster. They've made all this extra money and you haven't. So now you can't afford to get back on track or keep up.
And that really emphasizes the final point we just wanted to go through in this, which was different businesses go through different journeys.
Yeah, absolutely. And so make yours a digital one and it'll go 5 times faster.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, go 5 times faster, everyone's happier.
Yep.
And even saying that, it's not even just like being a digital business or being like a digitally incompetent business. There's actually, that's a bit mean way of saying it, like a digitally not enlightened business.
Not a digitally mature business,
yeah.
Probably the nice way to say
That's the way to put it. So there's more than that though, like big businesses and small businesses, and also at the rate your marketing works, they all affect the ways you're going to go on this journey?
The smaller businesses have an advantage because they're more agile. Bigger businesses are slower to change. There's more people to train. There's more things to undo and then redo. So if you're in a small business, get digital, go hard at it, try it, fail it, fix it. You will go so much faster and you will actually give some serious competition to the big end of town.
That's very inspiring in a sense.
You got this.
Yeah.
We believe in you.
Woo! It's like, I'm gonna beat the big guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any examples or stories about small businesses beating out bigger
Well,
ones?
96% of Australian businesses are small businesses. People prefer to buy from small businesses because they like that personal connection. They feel as though they get a concierge kind of service. In terms of the, generally small businesses, they feel as though they can keep you a little bit accountable. Whereas in a big faceless entity, you feel like you're just going to get a collection note or whatever, or they're going to sue you or something. So in a small business, it seems more honourable, more person to person, more human, and you kind of want to connect on that level. Customer feels happier. They're happy generally to spend a bit more money. I think about 86% of people pay more for a better customer experience. So you can take advantage of that as a small business because you can literally provide a better experience than the bigger end of town. So their cost savings that at scale that they can achieve are not necessarily a complete, not going to completely overrun you. You've got your own competitive advantage, and that is being human, personal, connected, and responsive because of good digital systems.
So that's the main thing. You can evolve faster when the tech comes out.
Correct.
Get ahead of the competition. So
Exactly.
then what about the opposite end of the spectrum? Big businesses, digital solutions. What's it like for them?
They still need to do it all. In fact, probably more so. And they need to spend a lot more money on it. They have a lot of different problems. Problems like, tighter data controls, international law around data taxes, more people to train. They've got to, they hit API limits and system limitations. So they might have to think about having multiple servers and multiple iterations and roll it up to global reports. But everything is doable. Everything is attainable. Nothing is out of reach. If you can think about it and conceptualize it in the right way, if you think about it in more of a unit model, like a small group, and they're all just connected, then that makes it a lot easier to create shared experience, ways that they can improve, things that are true and tested, which is making it human, being reachable, answering the phone, having someone that's not potentially in an overseas call center where you worry about your data, they don't understand you as well. And then there's other things like being responsive on chat, having all the information available, consistent branding. They've got the money, they've got the time, they can do all of this, but people generally prefer smaller businesses. But you're taking the tips and techniques that the big guys are spending millions of dollars on in terms of research to try and learn what's got to be changed. If you're doing that research and you're doing those unknowns and you're keeping on top of the latest things that are coming out, you can respond faster, and they've got to work 10 times harder for the big end of town. They've got to work 10 times harder for the same growth. So if you're a follower business, most people are in their industry, unless you're one of the top companies in the world for that, then you can be a follower mentality. Just copy what's working.
Yeah, and also with the big businesses, they not only do they have a scale of success, a scale at success, they fail at scale.
At scale, yeah.
So and that's a big thing. They have to check things 10 times, 100 times over to make sure it's going to work. I can call up my mate, I want to try this with you. And then if I screw it up, it's like either here's a discount or here's it done the proper way this time round. But no harm, no foul.
And everything in the big organization's got to go via like a sandbox. So they create a test environment, but it takes 10 times longer to do everything like that.
And non-disclosure agreements with lawyers and stuff. So
got to run it past marketing and legal. And
that's actually very exciting in terms of, this is the game I get to play and this is how I'm going to win at it. So that's I think a really good spot to end this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Go digital or die.
True.
But in a nice way.
Yeah. It's like, I guess you could say something like, now's the perfect time to digitize yourself. Everyone's getting on board with it. It's pretty much accepted way to do things. The culture's shifted.
Yeah.
Now's the one chance to really get ahead and be on top or fall behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's perfect. And that's really great. So we'll end it here and we'll see you all next week.